Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my new show, Out of Nowhere. It's a brand new show. Been going about 5 months now. I used to be on Beacon of Light Radio. And before that, I was on Blog Talk Radio all them years ago. I think 2014, I think, on Blog Talk Radio. Well, my guest today is Sir Brian M. Bowden. He's a great guest. We're going to talk about various things tonight, from Sasquatch to werewolves, paranormal, his own experiences. Can we please welcome Brian to the show? Hello there.
Blessings to everybody. Thank you very much, Bob. Yes, the sir is not that I was knighted by the Queen, but I am a Knights Templar, and that's where the sir comes from. It was pulled in a couple of different shows ago that I used to do, but I'm kind of moving away from it a little bit, but I do own it.
Yeah.
My official title is Sir Knight Brian M. Bowden, but so, yeah, Knights Templar.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Tell us a little bit about yourself for the listeners.
So I'm an American, born and raised in the U.S. I did about 25 years in broker-dealer finance, working a little bit initially for the United Nations, World Bank, IMF. I left that and I started basically a think tank, or just doing custom work for clients. And I've always been interested in the paranormal since I was a little kid. It started out with UFOs and Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest and Loch Ness Monster. And as I got older and I had the vehicle to go out with, I literally was able to take my car, travel, and start investigating on the real world out there. So that's what I do. I investigate everything. I investigate the cryptids, paranormal, high strangeness, mysterious beasts. I am a remote viewer. Also have psychic abilities. I do readings. A lot of free stuff, by the way. But I do have clients that do pay me for it.
Really?
And yeah, I'm not going to turn them away, Bob.
Oh no,
and
I shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't want to turn them away from, if someone wants to pay me, my time is my time. And when you get me, you don't just get me for the hour. If I get messages in between another session, I'm just going to send them to you. And that happens a lot. Sometimes you get more stuff to do that. I'm going to try to lower the volume on a laptop that I have and shut that off.
Yeah.
To make I don't want to double echo here. Yep. There we go. Shut it down. So this way we don't have a double echo. I apologize.
Tell us about.
Yes, sir.
Ryan, tell us about your own experience as a child.
Well, it's interesting. It starts off by being an empath, which I think is the go-to ability everybody usually has. I knew things about people. I felt, I knew, people that were up to no good. I could discern between lying and truth. And when I was a little kid, I lived in New York City, born and raised in New York City. I didn't see that much. I would look up at the stars looking for UFOs, right? But didn't see much. But it wasn't until I went to sleepaway camp in Connecticut. And back in the 70s, my mother was the head counsel of the girls portion of the camp. So we got to go for free, thank God. And I woke up at 3:00 in the morning to use the restroom. And there was a giant monkey in my window. And I'm on the top of a double bed, double decker. And in this window, a 3-foot by 3-foot window, is a giant head of what looks like a monkey or a gorilla. And there's a stench to skunks. And now I'm used to the skunk smell because it is the country. They do come out. This was really pungent, and it unnerved me because, like, who's in this window? So I laid down for a bit, had to go to the bathroom, but waited about an hour before I was either going to urinate on the kid below me or go to the bathroom. And that was
Ah,
that. But here's the thing, growing up in that era, everything you learned about Bigfoot was the Pacific Northwest. I didn't think Bigfoot was in Connecticut or on the East Coast. I thought it was just, West Coast type of. Well, when I got older, I discovered that we have a lot more on the East Coast of the United States, from Canada all the way down into Florida, than they do on the West Coast. This is like a major area for them. Again, up in that camp, I had a couple of UFO experiences, and they just kept coming and coming. And I mean, like, when I tell you I had this thing was in my window, it was no more than, if you look at most cell phones, like an iPhone, no more than 6-7 inches away from my foot, and it could have just
yeah.
went, boop, pulled me right in. So, once you have a Bigfoot
Oh my
experience,
God.
you want more of them,
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine. When we talk about Bigfoot, what do you think biologically could it be?
Well, I originally was a flesh and blood person. I studied sciences. I studied, I was thinking about being an astrophysicist. So I was studying physics and astronomy and some engineering. And I always thought it was part of the missing link, Gigantopithecus, that type of, creature. It wasn't until 2015 when I did a day-night investigation in upstate New York, where we had a major encounter with this creature, no more than 20 feet from us in the pitch black. We didn't physically see it, but we can feel the presence of it. We can feel it on the ground. There was a bluff charge. Then after the bluff charge, there was 3 of us on the investigation. We got a whoop, whoop, whoop. The third whoop in sequence. It didn't stop. It was whoop, whoop, whoop. The third whoop was at the other end of the
Right.
lake where we were, about 2 miles. And the only way that creature could have gone from point A to B is if it opened up some kind of portal or bend in time space and went point A and came out of point B behind us, 2 miles. Now, some people are saying, oh, maybe there were other ones there. No, even I've heard a couple of different Sasquatch Bigfoot vocalizations. There is a difference in the tonality. This was consistent. Boom, boom, boom. And it
Right.
reverberates. I mean, when this thing was very close and it's reverberating off your chest. And once it did that,
I bet it is. Yeah.
oh my, we have the adult undergarments called Depends in the US. And I always tell everybody that was a Depends moment, because there you are in the middle of the woods. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And if you're not prepared,
Yeah.
it will really change your life. One of the people that was there wanted to experience it, scared the hell out of him. We had to stop him from running because he would have lost his eye, got probably killed, knocking into a tree. But at that point, I changed my flesh and blood into, this entity has the ability to be flesh and blood, but then it can change its molecular structure and go and travel interdimensional. And it's all of this stuff is explained through science, believe it or not. If you've taken science classes in even elementary school, when in order to convert matter or energy from one to another, so from physical, we are all electric. There is electric current going through us. We're made of molecules which create the
Yeah.
flesh and blood. what happens is they can convert to that into a different form of energy. Usually, like you'll see it as orbs or lights. There's a lot of reports of orbs and lights with these creatures. You know, like, oh, I saw a UFO. No, you didn't. What you saw is this creature changing its physical strength into an electric format before going and changing into a molecular or a subatomic format. And this would explain why batteries are drawn. You know, you can have a fresh battery at a Bigfoot, you know, you're zooming in it, like, the batteries are dead because they're pulling the energy out of the air to use it to convert. So whatever's in the area, they're doing it. They can also mess around with electricity by pulling that energy to create those fuzzy Bigfoot pictures. You know, like, oh, it's a blurry Sasquatch. Well, that's their defense mechanism.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
And then once you get into that, then you get into something like an active camouflage. So if you've seen the Predator movie, you know how it was hidden behind this like camo that looked like the forest but a little bit distorted. I've seen that before.
Yeah.
And then once it's there, it can go interdimensional and go into another dimension. So I believe it can do all of it. It's yes. So do you think it's flesh and blood, or do you think it's interdimensional? That's what I think of it. This being has always been on this planet. It has existed before we existed, before God said, let there be light, and created, man. And it's not going anyplace. It does what it does. It's just an innate ability. If I asked everybody here, so you're born, how do you breathe? Well, I don't know how I breathe. I just start breathing. It's an innate ability.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason there's a lot of science to back it up. I don't know if you've ever had Ron Moorhead on. I think you guys have talked to him before. Ron's great. So I've been talking with to him about it. And he came out with Quantum Bigfoot. If you just read that book, if you have one Bigfoot book in your library, with the exception of whatever Paul Sinclair writes, I'm just going to throw that in there. What you want to do is read it, look at the research that's going on. What I'm proposing is very, very plausible. And I think we're going to come into a time, Bob, where we're going to be able to create what I call quantum filters. And there'll be filters you would apply, like you'll upload your video and you'll apply this filter. And believe it or not, you will start seeing things in your old photographs that were standing right next to you and you didn't even know it. So a lot of those images of you out there on the cliffs, at night, with the beings, you'll be very surprised to see that there were other entities with you eventually. And they're working on stuff like this. So let's cross our fingers. It'd make our lives easier.
Right. Do you think they can communicate through consciousness then?
100%. I haven't experienced that yet. I have not experienced that telepathic consciousness experience with any of these creatures that I'm aware of. So it may happen, but you may not remember it, especially with abduction scenarios. So if you have missing time, you may not be able to remember it purposely because you may not be prepared to remember it, or it may be set to drip out of you over a series of time for your constitution. But I tell you what I do. I know things about my children because I'm connected to them, and we know things, consciously. I always play a game. We're on the road, we're driving. Say to my children, I'm thinking of a color. Now, I'm usually thinking of red, orange, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? Something simple.
Yeah.
And my children are wise. They're like, seafoam green. No. Just go. But I project it in my mind, and they get it. And over time, when you start doing this with people, you can do it with friends, and you know this. You have a connection with people who are like, I knew you were calling. Boom. That's what we're talking about here. That would be my, with the exception of sitting down and having some tea with a Bigfoot and saying, so how do you feel being a Bigfoot? Having a conversation. I'd love to have that experience with them, and it's incredible, but not yet. We're working on it.
Do you think they've got a language then?
They definitely have their own language. I think they use a collective consciousness. I think they all know that they all know what each other is doing, no matter if it's here or the West Coast or something. It's almost like source. Some people would say Kosh record, but for them, they all have an idea of like when they have an interaction with if something happens in an interaction with you and me in the woods, then the other ones, oh, you're those ones that they mentioned or they saw, and they know if you're good or bad. They feel that vibe, but yeah, I think they have this.
I'm going to say consciousness. That. Do you think we're chosen? Do you think we're right? Do you think we are chosen sometimes when we go into a wood for them to communicate with us?
100%. See, I have a protocol called an active intelligent encounter. So, and I've been putting this into practice. I've been putting remote viewing into practice since go. I set my intention going in there. I want to have a communication with you. I want to have an interaction. I don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want to hurt you. We don't want to be hurt. If we have defensive weapons on us, some places we have to because we have big cat and bear. We let them know this is not for you. This is for our protection against the big cat and the bear or whatever. And I will leave that for you as an offering if I have to take that life. But when you do that and you consciously are doing that, and that could be for Bigfoot, that could be for, dare we believe, a dog man, I don't want to do that with, and other entities, especially extraterrestrials. Stephen Greer will take like, I created the CE5. No, you did not. Dr. Hynek created all these protocols. You are just, you may have trademarked certain things, but you're not in this. When you use your conscious, your intelligence, and you send it out to the universe, you get a response. So I would recommend everybody that's listening, if you're going out in the woods, say it. Also protect yourself, but put that out there, and you'll be very surprised what you see.
When we talk about Bigfoot, why is the government always deny it wherever you are, especially in the States?
That's money. So I'll explain to you. There's logging business, pine trees, cutting them down, making them to paper and wood, right?
Yeah.
And then there's parks and recreations. Each one of those businesses is a multi-billion-dollar industry with tons of employment. If they recognize that there is a bipedal cryptid or entity in these forests and you can't hunt them, you can't go near them, all that shuts down. And everybody loses the money. They're not going to do it. They just won't do it. Just like in the States, they're talking about, oh, this is disclosure. I'm like, look, it is not disclosure. It is smoke and mirrors. They're not going to tell you about real UFOs or extraterrestrials. You'll hear all this hearsay for multiple reasons. One is national security. We cannot reveal what we have. There's way too many enemies out there than there are, friends. On top of that, they have been lying for 100, almost 100 years, 80, 70, 80 years. They're responsible for that. They've been deceiving the public, right? And it's just not going to happen. We can't allow this to happen because there's too many legal reasons, too many lawyers or barristers and your servers. the money would be insane. Things would shut down. They couldn't do it, you know? And on top of that, to be brutally honest with you, Bob, disclosure happened in 1977. It was global, and it was done via a movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And Dr. Hynek was in the movie at the point where extraterrestrials are present. So you want full disclosure that we've been dealing with aliens, we've been exchanging humans with aliens, we've been exchanging crap, go watch the movie.
I know. There's always a theory, but when Bigfoot is seen around, there's UFOs seen around. Do you ever come into contact like that?
Okay, so there's multiple, we're going to talk about multiple things here. So there's well over 400 different races of extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, light beings, and other beings out there. Some of these beings look like Chewbacca from Star Wars, look exactly like Chewbacca. They look like the Ewoks. They look like Bigfoot. I don't believe the Bigfoot that are on this planet are, personally, I don't believe they're extraterrestrials. They're not aliens, okay? So there's multiple things going on here. You have that factor of it. And it's, when you have a creature that can go interdimensional, it has the ability to morph itself. These other extraterrestrials, the Greys, the Pleiadians, the Reptilians, or whatever, where people see them on crafts, ETs abduct everybody. You know, in their travels interdimensionally, they see these Bigfoot, like, well, who are those? What are those? Let's take a couple. And they pull them on, they take them, they do the same experimentation, and then they release them. And 99% of the time, they release them in the woods. They just let them go. If you happen to see them there, it's not necessarily that they're extraterrestrials. It's also not their, I've heard Bigfoot are the pets of extraterrestrials. And I'm like, I don't think so. I just think ET or extraterrestrials are abducting anything and everything because they're looking for the best match for continuing their race that they've destroyed.
I know Alex had just mentioned something in the chat room about Bigfoot in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about it. Do you think we definitely have Bigfoot type beings in the UK?
100%. I think you have Bigfoot throughout the world in different climates, in different cultures. You have the Yahweh in down under. You have Bigfoot in your country. It just depends on how. I don't want to. Well, yeah, you could use the term elusive. Sounds familiar to some people, but that's what it is. They're not meant to be seen. They don't want to have interactions with humans. They know that we're pretty violent. We haven't, leveled up in evolution, and we're very violent. If we scare the hell out of them, it could be dangerous for us. But I believe wherever you have land, you have Bigfoot, and different ones depending on the climate. So, for example, the Yeti, right out of the Himalayas, that Bigfoot creature is a descendant of the other Bigfoots. It's extremely aggressive. And people say, well, why is that so aggressive? And it's not aggressive, in another spot. Well, less people, less interference with that creature. So when something comes out of the snow and like, oh my God, there's a Yeti there, they're going to think of it as a confrontation. They're going to do what they do. And they're very violent. I mean, there's stories of them ripping apart some of the locals and the cattle and whatever to get what they want. In the States, we have a variety of different ones. The majority of them are, I'm not going to say they're passive and they don't do, majority of them just do their thing. They stay in the woods and they don't bother individuals. The younger ones or the teenagers, after a while in their group, they get left behind, the other group goes, so that these younger can mate. They can find a mate. And I don't know if you remember when you were 17, 18, Bob,
Ah,
but you didn't care about any, so it's the same
no.
process, the same hormones going through the copulation portion. And then that's why some of them are a little bit more aggressive or out of their, minds. There's the Ohio grassman, which is very aggressive because most people don't go near it. They stay, so when, if you lived in the middle of a forest and there's hundreds of miles and then someone came out of nowhere that you had no idea who you were, well, the first thing you'd be like, who are you? You'd be on the defensive. That's the difference. But when you're intermingling and they're encroaching on your property, you have to either, move on or adjust, and most of them adjust, and then they change some of their patterns and they're hunting or wherever their radius of, taking food.
A question from Rebecca here, Brian. Hi, Brian. Have you ever used your music when doing your CE5 sessions, like a way to change the vibration frequency?
I don't use my own music. I do create my own music. I'm really happy with AI, but I'm going to use it while I can. So I've been writing a lot of music and songs and then processing a lot of it through AI, which is kind of interesting, playing with different tonalities and vocal. My music is more, happy. I write a lot of love songs, good vibration type of stuff. But what I do use on investigations and going in, when I'm doing a CE5 or even meditation, I use binaural beats. I love them
Right.
to get that frequency in there. One of them I use is from it's an app from Bonsai Labs, and it offers you a variety of different binaural beats. Some are free. There's a sample version that's free, gives you a deep meditation, a theta wave, an alpha. So they'll go through a series of alpha, beta, theta, and you get into a good headspace. I also love using tones, different frequencies, the whole scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Yeah.
I use singing bowls, and we try to amp up the singing bowl itself. There's a variety of them we use, and each one's a different chakra and a different frequency. Just start using it. It just sends this vibration into the air, and it seems to charge where you are. And I've gotten the best results possible from it. So not my own personal music. I don't think if I played a little bit of, AC/DC, they're going to be, into it, although they do like music. But myself and a couple other investigators are musicians. And if we go on and we're camping, we will bring out like the harp or a guitar and start singing by the fire. They do seem to like it. It does draw them in a lot more because it's music. I mean, who doesn't like music?
Oh, yeah. Everybody likes music.
Yeah.
I know Alison was on about a while ago. I missed the question. What do you think about dogmen? What do you think they are?
Oh my God. I didn't want to believe these things were real, Bob. I thought we jumped the shark, like, okay, we're making this up. And then, I had a couple of conversations with people in public conversations over the air, and I get contacted by individuals that through, numbers that you can't trace, and they tell you things that they're real. They work for bases, and their job is to make sure these Bigfoot and Dogmen, other cryptids don't harm people. And then you have a personal encounter with one, and it's pretty unnerving. I think they are real. I think there is a connection to Bigfoot. Okay, I think there's some kind of offshoot from the Bigfoot. And I believe they do exactly what I just said about Bigfoot going from flesh and blood to interdimensional, because they disappear real quick. But there's more on the canine side of it. I've seen I've seen a canine dog man. I was no more than 20 feet from it in the shadow, coming back from an investigation. And we did an investigation of a graveyard. It was late. It was like November. It was cold and chilly. And after having too much coffee and caffeine, you have to use, relieve yourself. I was not going to do that on the grave or near it. So when we got back to the car, we noticed some eye shine. And I started to relieve myself. And there was this huge canine in the shadow. And when I tell you, it's sitting on its haunches, its ears are just straight up, big sized dog. And I'm 6 feet 1 inch tall, and I'm standing on a 3-foot grade. This thing is sitting on its haunches in the shadow, 20 feet from me, just sitting there. And it's now comes up to about my nose, so about a foot less. So technically, if you take the 6 feet 1 inch and add the 3 feet grade, I'm 9 feet 1 inch tall. This thing sitting down was about 8 feet tall sitting down. It was big. Thank God it was down on a little bit of there was some wood drop, And if you know anything about canines, when you urinate in front of a canine or another canine who urinates on top of someone's urine, that's a domination thing. I'm the alpha, you're the, pardon the expression, but it's what the term for females in dogs, a bitch, right? So there I am, because I grew up with dogs, went to dog shows. I hated them, but I know all about canines, different types. There I am urinating in front of this dog man in the shadow, and it's just sitting there. And my buddy Al's like, get in the car, Brian, get in the car. And I'm like, I can't stop. I'm kind of like Austin Powers. I mean, I've been holding this in for like hours, And thankfully, I had a machete across my chest, one here, one on my back, and one on my side, because up in New York, that's all you can carry. Well, we have bear, we have cat. We don't know what we're going to come up against, so I have to be able to protect myself. Plus bandits, and there are bandits everywhere these days. And it just sat there, and then at one moment, it just lowered itself completely, and went down where I saw it, and then it disappeared into the darker shadow. I got the goosebumps, and I knew something was going to happen. I got in that car, and he took off, and I would have sworn it would have chased after us, but it didn't chase after us. But I had other experiences where you can hear the growl, you're dealing with them. I don't like them. I really don't like them. Gonna be brutally honest. I don't believe that they're friendly. I don't believe that they're nice. I believe that they are very aggressive. In general, I think the only thing stopping them from coming at me at the time was the fact that I had a long blade, and they knew I could, if I got one slice, they're cut in half with a machete. They know the difference between the two. But it was also perplexed, but I really don't want to deal with them too often.
Exactly. I know, and Mr. Lee's thing, I think he was asking about, do you think Bigfoot and weird dogmen are telepathic?
Oh, 100% they are. There's numerous reports. Well, there are plenty of people that talk that they have telepathic communication with Bigfoot. I have yet to have that personally. I haven't had it with the dogmen either. I think my constitution's a lot higher, and they know that I'm not your normal or average everyday human coming in there. I'm elevating or vibrating on a higher frequency, and I do. Yeah. I mean, I let myself hey, you want to talk to me? I'll talk to you. But there are numerous reports of people seeing these dogmen and seeing their eyes, and they say it felt as if it was reading my mind, and they've had nightmare after nightmare of these things. I think it has an ability to somehow project. You can not only talk through your conscious, but you can project images through it. And if you look at some of the signs militarily, they do that. You can project information into people and remember it as if you read a book. So the case of the U.S. Air Force, for example, someone I know went through this. When you are working in certain sectors and they want you to learn things quickly, they literally put you in a room that's pitch black and they only have a small window, and they start showing you slide, 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 and then it goes so fast, and you're downloading all this information, and you don't think you're processing it, but you're actually processing all of it. You remember the images, you remember the information as if you read it. It's just how they do things to get information in your head quickly, and it works. So I think the dogman can project that into your mind's eye, and it somehow sticks there. It's pretty,
Right.
if you think about it, it's weird psychologically.
Of course it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Alex is asking, why do you think dogmen are often reported close to burial grounds and cemeteries?
I think they're pretty quiet areas for the most part. Not many people are going to hang out in a cemetery or a burial ground, and they're opportunists. If someone is just recently buried and they can get a little taste of something, it's easier way to do it. I know that sounds a little bit harsh, especially if you just buried a family member, but it's it's an easy way of getting things done. That's for the most part. They know what we are capable of. They know that if they start with us, um, they're going to get the blunt end of a military vehicle or weapon, and they're not prepared to do that. There was an incident, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, in Colorado, in a national park. A couple of people were shredded, like ripped to shreds, and they said it was a bear or a cat attack. And the U.S. military literally sealed off a 5-mile radius from that park and kept getting the helicopters coming in and out, because they have special units that go in and deal with these problems. If it was a bear, why do you need a 5-mile radius? Why is the military actively involved in this area?
True.
So, yeah. So, and I see something with Anubis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yes.
it's very interesting. If you go to the Egyptian culture, everybody's like, oh, the Egyptians, oh, they built the pyramids. I don't think they did build the pyramids. There's a lot of stuff points that they didn't build the pyramids. They were there when they got there. And this is technology and information that was, mouth to ear over time, handed down. But I think some of the gods that they describe, I think there's tons of stories about these wolf or canine beasts. There's even I forgot the name of the beast. I think it's Saint Christopher may have been a canine. So think about that. And if they're a canine and they're doing things to help, it's not like they're always out there, killing or pillaging. They may be out there helping individuals. And with Anubis being a god, we're talking about a significantly tall, 12 to 15 foot, giant being that looks like a wolf. Wouldn't you think that was a god, compared to the most height of humans back then? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know. Lee said about telepathic, but he said, can it see into the earth?
Oh, I'm sure it can see. I'm sure it gets information on multiple levels. See, here's the interesting thing. So Bob has abilities as well. People always ask me when I'm doing how do you know this? I just know it. It's an innate ability. I know it as if I know my own name. But if we get when you transfer from the meat suit up to, I'll call it heaven, because I'm a God-fearing individual, and you get there and you see what's going on, you see past, present, and future all at the same time. Everybody knows everything. It's one giant consciousness you know, resource. So if they can do that, I think these Bigfoots see things in from a dimensional look, as if they're looking into a diorama or, you know, some kind of grand, like, you know, snow globe, and they know what's going on there. You know, I think they lose some of that insight when they go flesh and blood, because they're limited about what they can do. They can sense your
Yeah.
energy and aura. They know you're coming before you come. They know you're going to be there. And I'm sure when you go to the cliffs in Bempton, they know, oh, Bob's here, you know, and they
Oh
know who
yeah.
you are. They like observing you. You've been very, you know, you guys are respectful to the space. Yeah, you'd like to capture a better image of them, but it's any relationship takes time and dating. So maybe bring some food next time. Here you go.
Hey, well,
You know,
yeah, exactly. I'd like to know, how did you get into remote viewing?
I've been doing that. Well, things like that for the longest time. When I was in high school, um, I've been having, okay. So there's things called dreams, and then there's experiences. And the
Yeah.
difference is when you have a dream, it's vague. I'm like, I think Paul was there with Bob. They may have been playing a polka. I'm not really sure. Versus an experience. And we do have experiences when we're all at rest. We connect to source. We download information. Some of us will remember, some of us won't. But what you remember is, and if you actually remember through the whole thing, 9 out of 10 times, depending on what you're doing, you'll be even more exhausted when you wake up. Okay, because you're physically and mentally and emotionally going through that. So an experience is, it was Bob, Paul. We were in a mini. It was like green with red flames. You get into all the little details. So I used to have these experiences over and over again. And then when I was in high school, I would take a private coach from New York City back to my home in one of the boroughs, and it's boring. You know, you sit in the back of the coach. It's not really filled up. So what I would do is I would mentally say, pick somebody and go, turn around, turn around, turn around. And some of them would sheepishly turn around. And the others that had gifts would turn around real quick, like cut it out, you know. And that begot, I heard about remote viewing, and I started to try to project it and try to see, well, what's it like in, you know, I'm just using an example. I didn't do it in Egypt. I want to see the Sphinx, and you get to walk around the Sphinx and see it. And as you start developing this gift, it begets other gifts. So I can go any place I want. I get all the senses: see, smell, taste, touch, feel, all of it, and more information from it. And I can come back and report it. I've done this hundreds of times, and I always ask somebody, like, please let me know where we are in this. You know, I want to get feedback. And 10 for 10, you know, I'm getting you were spot on, or you're off by like a little bit. So I'm about 98% accurate with what I tell you. And there's things I shouldn't know that I do know. I'll give you an example. This happened recently. I'm part of an organization, a fraternal organization. And there was a guy that came in, a nice kid, younger guy, great guy. He's just wonderful. He had, you know, he has a daughter. He's in custody with his wife or his girlfriend. It's a mess. He's trying to get on the straight and narrow path, and he's a good guy. It's not like he's tried, you know, criminal or anything. You know, hanging out with the wrong
Yeah.
people, put in tough situations. So he's coming on board, and we hadn't heard from him in a while. So one of my other, you know, brothers goes, you know, we haven't heard from him. I said, I've tried calling him. I tried texting him. Did you? Yes. He's been missing for a couple of days now. I said, listen, if you don't hear from him in a couple hours, I'm going to remote view where he is. So I never heard from him. And I sat there and I just concentrated on him. And the first image I get, I see and can feel a morgue in a hospital. And I see the cabinets where the bodies are and the tile around it. and I could feel the coolness
Oh,
of
yeah.
the basement and the morgue. And then right next to it, I see like a curtain, like this stuff that's behind me, these things, and it's
Yeah.
closed. And then I'm like, oh my God, I hope this kid's not dead. And I keep looking. I said, I need more details. And I go in, and then I see someone in a hospital a gown, and I see them handcuffed to the bed and getting medicine. And I start knowing things. They're getting medicine. They're arrested. They're handcuffed. So I call my friend Pat back, and I go, Pat, I need you to check the hospitals in the morgue. I told him exactly what I saw. I said, he's either dead or he's been arrested. He's in the hospital and he's getting medication. And probably 4 hours later, he goes, I get the message. You were 100% spot on. He's been arrested. He's in the hospital. He's handcuffed to the bed. He's getting medicine because he lost his medicine in the fight. And the bed and curtain is right next to the morgue. That's how it works.
Oh, brilliant. That's good proof, that is.
I love the proof. I want to be, if I'm telling you something, like when you have a reading, a lot of times when I do readings, I'll ask, let me see the date. And they won't tell me, sometimes they won't tell me the exact date, but I'll see a calendar and they'll say December. I said, it's going to be around December. Or I'll see a December, January, and I'll see 2 weeks. I said, it's going to be like at the end of December. I can give you a vague estimate. Or I'll see Christmas decorations or some other thing. And I tell them, and what I say is, this is important for everybody. The future is fluid. You are down a path. If I tell you you're going to hit the lottery, you're going to have the lottery win worth millions of dollars. If you sit down on your duff and you don't do anything, or you don't go about your day like you normally would, and you wait, and you don't hit the lottery, that's not because I was wrong. That's because you stopped doing your path. You have to continue doing your life until the event unfolds. And there may be other portions where you may get intersections of the event, and they kind of crisscross. So the future is fluid. Something that happens this second can change the outlook that I predicted,
That's right,
for 24 hours from now. And people don't understand that, though. Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, you're
if you
wrong.
break the pattern yourself, that's why it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Lee's in the color of the dog man's eyes.
Oh, they were freaking bright yellow and amber eyes. It was real bright. Kind of like it looked like a precious stone. It looked like the iris with, it's an incredible looking thing. It's almost like it's self-illuminating. But there's a vibe about it. It's like an amber, and there's an intensity that comes with this creature. Even with Bigfoot, I think that's an infrasound-based product. I think they give off a certain, sound because they can mimic things. Dogman mimics too. Dogman will mimic baby crying, other vocalizations to try to sometimes draw you into the woods, or, hey, let me in, but these eyes are, if you've seen them in the woods, they're ginormous. They're huge eyes. It's not normal. You're like, there it is,
Well, the question I'd like to ask is,
Sure.
Why do some people think they've got paranormal powers and other people don't?
Well, okay, so everything we do in this field, including what you guys do, is conjecture, right? I don't have a physical dog, man. I don't have a Bigfoot. What I do have is multiple different interactions and experiences with them. I'm reporting from that. Now, if I had a physical Bigfoot, whatever, or a dog, man, I could do experiments on them, and then I could tell you definitively for sure. So everybody is just kind of like rolling the dice and picking what they could levitate. I don't know if they can levitate. I don't think they can. But if they go interdimensional and they change into an energy form, yeah, they'll float away. And then once they disappear, they disappear.
Yeah.
Or if they have active camouflage and they bend something, it looks like, look, they're bending that, that tree. No, you just can't see through what they're doing. But there are certain, we'll call them beings, that have the ability, when you can change your molecular structure and subatomic structure, then you have the ability of changing and going through physical solids. A lot of people that get abducted by extraterrestrials are in a 100% lockdown situation. And they've reported these beings have come through the walls. They literally walk through the walls and materialize. That's because they're straddling possibly different dimensions, as well as subatomically. They're changing their molecular makeup so that they become part of that and they can move through it, pass through it. So that's why, if you see something go through a brick wall, you're going to say, what kind of superpowers does this thing have? They just have an ability to do it. I wish I could do that, because I'd be going into a bank every day, taking what I wanted and giving some to everybody else and taking my own. I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't have robbed, but there's so many things you would do, and so they have the people like, oh, they have superpowers. Or my favorite is, and this is no disrespect to your belief system, folks, please, I'm a God-fearing man, but on the ultra right side of, like, people who are born again or whatever, they're Nephilim. Now, the Nephilim are Nephilim. They're the creation of angels with the daughters of man. That is what you're getting. It's a sin, and that's a totally different subject. They're not all Nephilim. I don't believe they're demons, okay? You're just, if it's not in that, Christian Christ thing, everything's a demon. It doesn't work that way. There are beings that have been around this earth a long, long time, that have played around in the darkness. Yes, they're tall, they're extremely tall, but so are the Nephilim. Nephilim are supernatural. They have the abilities, to levitate and fly and do whatever they want. These aren't them. I'm sorry, they're not demons, they're not Nephilim. They are their own species of creature.
What about, like in America, about the Jersey Devil? Been lots of stories on that, haven't they?
Yeah, here's the problem with the Jersey Devil. I've been there a couple of times. I think the Jersey Devil is 99% active imagination, which was brought on by Benjamin Franklin. See, Poor Richard's Almanac is what Benjamin Franklin had, and he came into the area. But the big almanac was Mrs. Leeds, the Leeds family almanac, and right. It tells you when to plant, when to harvest, whatever. That's but Mr. Right. Lead got into a lot more of the, people studied real astronomy back then and astrology, the conjunctions, and he started getting a little bit out of the Puritan, religious side, and did things that weren't so good. But he had the majority of the supply. People were going through his product. Now the Leeds family mascot, I think, is a werven, which is like that beast that looks like a cat or has a demon tail, the tail and the wings, right? So what happened is Ben Franklin said they're demons, they're devil worshippers, and hence the Jersey Devil coming with Mrs. Leeds. So he disparages them, slanders them, creates a controversy. People see weird things in the woods, and it's the Jersey Devil. But what I do believe they're seeing are interdimensional, like the Mothman, humanoid creatures. They're also seeing dogmen. They're seeing Bigfoot, and it's scaring the heck out of them, because once you see something, overactive imagination, you can run away from it, So it's the Jersey Devil.
It does, yeah.
Right. So that's what I think the Jersey Devil is. Yeah. Well, when I did the TV show, I was trying to explain to them, and they said, "Do you want my answer, or do you want your TV answer?" So I gave him a little more of a TV answer. But I think it's a different being. It's not really a devil or a dragon or anything like that.
Tell us a little bit about the Star Children of the Pine Bush.
Oh, I got invited. There's a independent filmmaker that went out and she wanted to do, she heard all these things about what was going on in that Pine Bush area, which is north of New York City. It's where Whitley Strieber had his house. So at one point it was a big time hotspot for UFO activity. And so there's a lot of people that would meet there that have had multiple experiences and have been regressed several times and told that they're really star seeds or their children are star seeds. So that would be the hybridization of humans and extraterrestrials being placed on this earth to help this earth grow and expand properly in the consciousness. And so I just told from my point of view, my experience. We used to do, I'm in New York right now in my apartment when I'm trying to get rid of, but now I moved to Florida. But I still come back up during the summer. It's a little, I still investigate all over the country, by the way. I want to go international, but gotta get my passport. But with this, I've been told by a third party psychic that my first daughter is a star seed. We had a difficult time, creating her, I always had a vibe. She's very intuitive. She's not as much intuitive now because she's 16 and loves her boyfriend. So she dances off. But for over 2 years, I had to have the lights on in the house because she was seeing things in the mirror. I got it. My other half doesn't believe, so I have to deal with them. But my youngest is super intuitive. But this is part of that star children thing where, people get abducted, they create these children, and they're really intelligent. And their whole methodology behind them is to move us into, I don't want to say a kinder, gentler nation, but to level up, to vibrate at a higher frequency. When you start vibrating at a higher frequency.
Don't you think a lot of children, Brian, don't you think a lot of children from the age of growing 3 months to 6 years old now are more intuitive now than ever?
Yeah, well, much 100% with you. And I think this is the process. They're really aware of what has to be done.
Switched on, aren't they?
They're coming out and they're really smart. They're intuitive. They know the good and the bad. And they know, the problem with extraterrestrials and these star children is with these beings, it's either yes or no. It's a two. There's no gray for them. 1 + 1 = 2. There's it. It's not 1 + 1 = 1.5 or whatever Terrence Howard's trying to, that craziness. There's no middle ground. There's no emotion component. And these kids seem to get the best of the extraterrestrial information because they're connecting to another source, and they're able to transport it and transform this planet, hopefully into a better place. Let's stop with the wars. We can get along with each other. We don't always have to agree, and it's strange. I mean, my youngest daughter from day one has been, she's said things to me that blows my mind, telling me she's with my grandmother before she came here. I'm like, oh my God, but the love and the care, and the concern she has for people, it's just, I've never in my life experienced that with people.
Environment and about the world, the thinking about it all the time.
And how it could be better. She saw homeless people. We have a ton of them in New York City. And she said, if I had money, I'd give them money. And I'm trying to explain to her, not all the people that are on the streets there are there because they don't have the money. Some of them are choosing to live that life. There's a
Yeah,
disconnect.
exactly.
But she gets it, and her heart is in the right place. And I think that's what these star children are. So that's what I was, on film. I'm honored to be asked on your show always. We're family, so I'll come on whatever you want. Um,
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
expect it.
thank you.
Anybody that wants me on, please, let's let me know. Private message me. Hey, would you mind coming on? No problem. Okay. Um, this is what it is. It's how you treat people. Um, you know, it's interesting. You could love thy neighbor, but be prepared. It's not about
It,
just submitting or being a
tell
lamb. Yeah, yes, sir.
tell us about your new books, what you wanted to get out there, and where can people get your other books?
Okay, so I haven't. I'm working on 3 books. It was supposed to be a Dogman book, a Bigfoot book, and a UFO based book. I'm doing something different. I'm writing 3 different things at once, and I'm combining certain things to it. Those are coming. I do have a book where all my music and poetry. I'm a big fan of Lord Byron, the Romantic poet. So sometimes I call myself Lord Brian, but it's called Music and Muses, um, a lyrical life to poetry. It's on Amazon. I think you get it for $4 now. I published it just to publish it. I'm not hawking anything like that. You want to buy it, buy it. If you want me to sign a thing, I'll sign it for you. I don't care. But
What
right now, what I'm doing
about
is
what about children's books?
I'm working on illustrated versions, and it's dealing with a lot of paranormal, how to put it on the plate so it's palatable for children, so they don't get scared, and something like that. Thank
Good.
God, this is where AI comes into great play. I am an artist, but I don't want to spend my whole entire life drawing. But if you can use
Right.
certain AI stuff, you can have them create the graphic that you want, and then I can mix and match and pull from there. So let them
Really?
build the wheel, and then I'll customize it. And that's what I'm doing. It's
Yeah.
it's very, very simple. And other than that, um, I do. If you subscribe to my YouTube, it's youtube.com/at Brian Bowden, BryanBowden. In September, I am starting a new show called Third Eye Live. Third Eye. And it's how your consciousness plays a role in your life and your experiences. Creation of art, music, calculating, family, connecting. It's not just going to be paranormal based. Of course, I'll have, psychics on. You're more than welcome to come on, Bob. I'd love to have you on. And I
Thank
want to
you.
be able to take live calls to do live readings for people. But this is
Right.
also more about how we can use this to live a better life. And always, I'm trying to leave everybody on a positive vibe. Sometimes it's difficult. You're being hammered from all different sides. I beg you, be positive, think positive. Your life will change. So it's Third Eye Live. It's coming in September. That's about it. And then I'm
Brilliant.
posting my own music
Sound great.
online. I thank you. So I'm no Paul Sinclair with writing books. If Paul's listening, I've been asking to get copies of every one of his books. He's got to come over so it costs me less money on shipping for the books.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
get to
no,
him.
yeah. I'll speak to him anyway, and you will as well. Well, thank
Yes,
you, Brian, for being on the show.
thank
Everybody in
you.
the chat room has said, "What a great guest tonight."
I appreciate everybody. God bless you all. Have blessed days, blessed lives, and let's go and look for UFOs and call them in and have interactions with them.
Oh, get out there! I bet he's gone out tonight because it's a lovely
No,
night.
actually,
Clear sky.
August 2nd, we're doing a CE5. August 2nd in Hastings, New York, from 6 p.m. to 9
Right.
p.m. We will be conducting another CE5 or an active intelligent encounter, and we're hoping to bring in some more crafts. So fingers
So
crossed,
that's
right?
11 o'clock UK time.
Yeah.
That'll start at 11 o'clock UK time then.
Yes, and I'm gonna
If
make sure
anybody's out
somebody's
there
gonna like.
listening to the show.
Yeah. Hopefully, we're gonna have a couple people broadcasting it, so we'll see if we can capture something.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yep.
That sounds good, that does. Thank you, Brian, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure. Blessings to the family.
You. Yes,
Thank
I
you.
will do. And I'll see Paul probably tomorrow night, probably.
Oh, that'd be great.
Or being
I'm trying to get over to the UK. I want to get back over to England to go visit you guys, but I also want to pick up a bull terrier.
That'd be brilliant.
So, I had one, so I need another one. So.
Oh, yeah, get a bull terrier.
Yeah,
my God,
I had
you
one.
get one of
He was crazy. But yeah, and I'll come visit
yes,
all of
well,
you.
thank you to everybody in the chat room. All the people in the chat room, all their questions tonight was absolutely fantastic. And thank you to Brian. What a great guest he's been.
Thank you
Good night
very
and
much,
God
Bob.
bless wherever you are
Night.
around the world. I'll just finish show. That's probably why. There we go.